we are joined by this week's guest. We have the wonderful Rhumba Club. Hello.
Hi, Venn. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I mean, we're all a bit like, let's get this over and done with now, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you feel that you can kind of work towards something more now? Does it feel like it's coming? Change is coming.
Yes. Although I'm not going to complain too much about this period because it's been quite good for me relatively. It's always a bit awkward to say that, uh, but yeah, I think I didn't realize how social I was until this moment. To be honest, I didn't realize how much I craved human interaction until this moment
Right.
in life. And now that is the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
Mm. Do
The pub.
you? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Well, I was talking about to someone who wasn't. I don't think they're from the UK, and they were just sort of they'd been here for a while, and then they realised how important the pubs are to kind of the UK and what we what we do, and just the way that we gather and chat to each other, and meet each other, and
They've been our like social hubs for like millennia,
yeah,
haven't
yeah, and yeah, it's just yeah.
they?
Um,
Gosh.
Many points I've been looking forward to the pub, so
Not just alcohol, yeah.
it will happen soon. So do you have you been doing lockdown by yourself? Do you live alone? I think you said you had a cat. Is it
I've got a cat and I've got a boyfriend called Ben.
a cat and a
Um,
boyfriend? Oh, that's good.
so yeah, and they both equal. um, I consider that to be a blessing actually. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
and Ben's a creative person as well, so
Okay.
he gets it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Now,
what do they create in?
he's a stylist.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And we work a lot together on stuff as well.
Hmm.
So I yeah, I guess that's good. I always wonder what it might have been like if I'd been with an accountant. No shade to accountants, my brother's, but just a fundamental kind of
Hmm.
um, different week, I guess.
Yeah.
A degree of routine, and
Hmm.
so I'm very grateful. I'm surrounded by people well, people and felines who uh, kind of operate on the
Yeah.
same level.
Different thing. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I've never really dated someone else who is also creating. So I've kind
Yeah.
of been the opposite. But I always wondered if that would be better or because then they would understand it a little bit more. But then also I wondered if it would just be like
Well, we're
chaotic.
both deep. I mean, it's not all, it, we have a mutual understanding and probably more uh, accepting of each other's weaknesses as a result.
There you go.
But, but just we're still both divas and at times.
Hey, we've all got it in there. Just waiting around. Anyway, I did not bring you on just to talk about your boyfriend and your cat. Though it's
Well,
nice to
good
talk about
on
that too. Um, so we know you as the Rumba Club, and I would love to just hear a little bit about you and how the sort of the birth of the Rumba Club and what it's all about.
So, yep. I okay. So I um, started doing music in a professional capacity a few years ago now in London, and I sort of made my way through the indie circuit.
Hmm.
So I was in a band called Teddy, and it was sort of alternative indie. We were still, it was kind of edgy in some ways because it was quite whacked out.
Hmm.
Um, and then that ended. We did okay, but two differences and all that. Then I thought I want to do exactly what I want to do now. I've gone through this process of an apprenticeship of sorts. I want to put all
Yeah.
my skill into into action. So I started holding queer club nights.
Okay. So
At
when was this? What year are we talking?
2017,
Okay.
2017 maybe.
Hmm.
And Rhumba Club was a queer club night, and the idea was you sort of turned up, and it was when Donald Trump had just got in, and he had those hats, those awful hats.
Hmm.
So I wanted to do the same thing, but sort of an anti thing. So everyone wore a Rhumba Club hat and turned up, and the idea was it was all about being who you truly are. Which sounds sort of naive now after all the discussions we've had over the last 4 years. But back then it felt quite fresh, and it was about whether you were really into Star Wars or whether you were trans or whether you were queer or whatever you might be. I wanted it to feel that you could be outrageously comfortable.
Mm. Outrageously comfortable. I love
Yeah. So
that.
what I mean is, like, you could be the core of who you wanted to be in that moment when you were in the Rumba Club.
Mm.
And that's when I started writing songs like "The Rumba Club Is Waiting for Me." It was one of my tracks I released
Yeah, yeah.
last year, with that audience in mind. But then it sort of developed into it's now my sort of artistic name,
Hmm.
and and I used it as a vehicle for my creativity,
That's great.
really.
What a really, I didn't know that at all. So that's really a cool starting point for the Rumble Club. Where did you hold the nights? What venues were you in?
It was sort of East London, our working men's clubs.
Yeah,
So Bethnal Green, Moth Club,
nice.
also like sort of little venues, the waiting room,
Hmm.
uh, those kind of places where it always, particularly then, it felt subversive. When you had Sink the Pink there,
Mm.
all those kind of events. Doing a queer event at a working men's club, or it was quite.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, edgy.
What's going on? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool. And I was going to say about one of those venues. Oh, so on one of your music videos, forget which one it's in, but I'm going to describe the video and you can tell me which one. So it's in like a hall, like it looks like a town hall, and you're dancing about on stage, and there's like some gold um,
That's right.
trimming on stage.
Yeah, the gold curtain, the glitter curtain. Yeah.
Glitter curtain, yeah. Where was that filmed? Was that in one of these venues, or was that
Um,
somewhere else?
Similar kind of venue, but it was in Tufnell Park,
Hmm.
and it was called Hatton Hall.
Hatton Hall.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think it's Hatton Hall. They're gonna kill me. Tufnell Park. So I'm googling it now. So I
Yeah, Google it.
Hall.
Get the mention him.
I just can't remember. Sorry, but
It
it
was a
was
very
called
cute hall. Like very
Hargrave Hall.
Hargrave Hall. There you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it was a it was perfect for like that vibe again. Like you felt like you were subverting something
Mm.
by going in there and being a little prancing around like a little queen.
It's a great video, and we'll chat a little bit about your kind of your videos and imagery and stuff as well, because I think they're really interesting. And but so the Rumba Club, so kind of born then from more of a nightlife, an actual night then, um, and then turned into the musical vehicle that you have now. What other inspirations and maybe aspirations have you picked up along the way for Rumba Club?
Um, well, well, I can tell you about my inspirations. Like
Mm-hmm.
originally, I wanted to create that. I wasn't born in the 80s. I can't say I experienced the 80s firsthand, but I wanted to do something to kind of recreate that sense of liberation that I felt when I heard a lot of 80s records
Mm-hmm.
by queer artists. So that was a big influence on me. So, I know you're a big fan of Erasure.
I am indeed. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah, definitely. So similar. Like I was just born in the 80s. I had a few years in the 80s as a
lucky you.
young
Lucky.
baby. Not that I remember it, but I can say I was born in the 80s. But yeah, I definitely there's something in that sound. I agree that has always been like,
And
that
and
is
something
interesting.
about it I feel still resonates now.
Hmm.
I don't know quite what it is. And maybe it's the subtlety of it.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like there was a lot of coded signaling and stuff like that going on, which I really
Yeah.
thought was clever and sadly necessary, probably.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I also wonder. I think just the electronic sound of the 80s, and there's so much of music is kind of, in particularly the pop world, is more kind of like synth and electronic based, and people making music at home, and particularly in this last year and stuff as well.
Yeah,
And I wonder if there's something in that kind of mix that kind of
yeah,
is a nice inspiration point.
yeah. I think so. I 100% think so. And I guess electronic music. The thing about electronic music is it's got that sense of anything is possible.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
you can
You're
kind of
not confined to
yeah,
finding those instruments.
exactly.
Although I think we've spoken about this before. My love of saxophones, so I appreciate your
Oh,
saxophones
good.
on your tracks. And which
I,
is you've got a real saxophonist who plays, right?
yeah, Pete. He's brilliant. Pete Wilson Lambert. Um,
A real life saxophone player.
real life sax player, yeah. And he's a multi instrumentalist actually, and he's a composer, and he's really brilliant, and he's really open as well to like if I say things like, well, he sends me something and then I say, oh, can I reverse it and put it through this, and he's very relaxed about it. So
Nice.
I'm
And
very grateful to him.
what? So in the background, I can see a beautiful array of synths. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've got and what you play as well?
So I guess I'm a piano player, really. Um, but I always liked the idea of synthesizers when I was younger. I used to have crap keyboards, really rubbish keyboards, but I
Uh-huh.
still had a big stand. Uh, I just liked it. I don't know. I just thought it was really cool. It obviously wasn't, like Rick Wakeman, Howard Jones, not that cool, but I thought it was. Um, so I always like the idea of it without actually knowing much about it. But synthesis itself now is quite exciting. I'm quite geeky about it. I just quite like it. I'm, playing with waves and experimenting. Again, it's that element of possibility.
Hmm.
And I think more broadly, my mantra in writing music is sort of to ensure you feel like you're playing all the time. And when you've got lots of knobs and things in front of you,
So to speak.
uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. There is that sense of opportunity, that sense of play,
Mhm.
and that's what I like about it. Really, it's not really anything particularly technical. I just fun.
Just to enjoy playing around. Well, I guess yeah, totally. You can change the sound to whatever you fancy. Are you quite like a um, uh, do you like do you read the manual on you on synthesizers, or do you just go in and like play and figure it
I,
out?
I go in and play until I get annoyed. Now,
Yeah.
because that's my computer is there and
Mhm.
I'm here. I do just Google the PDF of whatever manual, and it's so easy now to literally isolate whatever issue you're having. So I do eventually end up there, but I always try to get there first.
Yeah.
Because I think you get better at it as well. You get better at the instrument if you
Mhm.
if you give.
Mm.
God, I sound boring. You know what I
No,
mean?
hey, I'm sure the synth geeks out there will. love to find it. But
But,
you did something about this recently, did you not? I'm sure I saw on your social media. You were
yeah,
chatting
well,
about your setup.
so Sequential, who make the Prophet, um, which is used on so many good records, like a load of Madonna records in the '80s, and a load of Talking Heads records. Um, they made me one of their sort of, I don't know, like their flag spotlight artists, they call it. So I had to do a
Ah,
video
cool,
for them.
nice. Ah, okay, great.
But you know, that's a great endorsement to have, I guess.
Absolutely.
One day they'll find me out, but
But hey, until now, that's a good thing to have. I was speaking of support as well. I was going to ask you about how, because I've seen you've been getting loads of support from BBC Introducing over the last little
yeah.
while. I mean, yeah, how's that been for you, and what's kind of involved for that? I guess for anybody who's listening doesn't really know what that kind of means. You know.
I think you've got to. I can tell you very clearly, actually, because I met up. I went for
Mm.
coffee today with a BBC Introducing producer. They gave
Insider knowledge. Okay.
they gave some insider knowledge today. It was quite interesting. Nothing, no cheating, but just understanding of the way it works. You just got to go to the uploader,
Hmm.
the BBC Introducing uploader. You can just Google that and upload. And if they think it's strong enough, obviously, it's going to be subject to the taste of people along the way. But I guess if you have something that's strong enough and you do it enough, you'll get listened to eventually.
Hmm.
So I recommend doing it, but only if you think it's the radio producer I was talking to was and she will remain nameless, but she said she does get annoyed with people sort of throwing up demos and things like that.
Hmm.
I wouldn't put anything up there unless you're super proud of it. Be really proud of what you do, and then give it a go.
Hmm.
And then it kind of works up the system. So if your local one enjoys it, they will pass it on to a kind of a bigger station. So
Yeah.
to Radio 6 or whatever, and if they like it, they might play it. If it makes the cut that week.
Hmm.
And then it might find another life if it's good, if it's really good. I guess that hasn't happened to me yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. See, it's also like building blocks as well, isn't it? I guess with any of that stuff, you know.
Get your name
And once
around
you've
as
got
well.
one thing as well, then it kind of like people see that you've got support in that way, and like I guess it
Yeah,
all helps in the long run, doesn't
I
it?
think so. I think so.
And
That's
where your local radio is like, so where you grew up, is that right?
Yeah, so I go to send my stuff to Jersey. That's where I grew up, rather than London. And I think that's everyone should do that really, because London is saturated by
Mm.
bigger artists. By so I guess there's less chance to get heard if you go through
Yeah.
London.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and also, it's interesting. I do think taste is defined in these certain areas differently.
Hmm.
I do think you're going to hear different kinds of music, and BBC Introducing Norwich to,
Hmm.
to BBC Introducing Jersey or BBC Introducing London. So I think you should think carefully about where you put stuff.
Hmm. Okay, there we go. Some good tips in there.
No, yeah.
um, so I really love islands. Could you tell me what was it like growing up on an island?
So um, Jersey's a beautiful place, and I thoroughly recommend going.
I've never been. It's definitely somewhere I'd like to go.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's also the place to go right now because it's interesting because it used to be before package holidays. It's where all the Brits used to go on holiday
Mm.
because there was pretty good sunshine and it was more exotic
Yeah.
than Blighty. But then the package holidays came in, and it sort of, it wasn't so much the destination. But since the pandemic and travel has been limited, people have been rediscovering it again.
That's cool.
Quite interesting. And of course, the Real Housewives of Jersey has kicked off, which is kind of excruciating and amazing at the same time.
What? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it started. Yeah,
Where can I find that?
I wouldn't know. I presume it's like ITV2 or something.
Great.
Growing up, I should say, it was nice, but as with a lot of people experience when you're gay, it's fairly socially conservative.
And have you noticed that change at all in years?
I mean, gay people are allowed to get married now, which actually wasn't the case. They came round to that a few years after the UK. It tends to happen like that, though. In Jersey, everything just sort of happens a little bit later. I remember even the ages of consent were unequal when I was growing up, which I find extraordinary now. And I remember I used to hear all sorts of arguments, bullshit arguments, like, the thing is, because it's such a niche sexuality, younger people are at risk and all this kind of stuff. They didn't want to reduce it to 16, but it got through. It got through, but it was a little bit like,
yeah, for sure. It's funny when any of these changes of law, it just brings out all the kind of ridiculousness in people's arguments as well. So I used to work for an LGBT youth charity in Scotland called LGBT Youth Scotland, and I was working around the time that we were campaigning for equal marriage in Scotland. So I got to work kind of in the like within people in the parliament as well, and like MSPs and on the campaign stuff. And so it was always very very interesting to see firsthand some ridiculous arguments against it, just stuff like that as well. And like, I don't know, just
I know.
Funny what people, I don't know, kind of make up in their heads to be like, we shouldn't change this.
As soon as people start quoting the Bible, then I switch off.
Yeah, it's always interesting. So we're going to be playing one of your tracks on the show. Do you know which track you'd like to give a spin?
Yeah,
well, I'm going to give you another minute to decide because your cat's just appeared. So we're just going to appreciate that. What's your cat called?
There she is. Good girl.
What's her name?
Her name is Darling.
Oh, Darling.
But we didn't call her that. It's quite funny because it's like we go out on the roof with her and all the neighbors can hear is, "Darling, come back." These two gay guys, but we inherited her from a lady who in Hackney, and she couldn't keep her anymore, but she called her Darling. And we just thought we can't change that.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Okay, that was your stalling time.
Yeah.
Which track should we hear?
I think this is a wild card for me. Yeah, I'm going to say the latest one. I'm going to construct an image. That's what we're going to do.
Great track.
Can
you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I can. So, probably to the clubbers who are the Rhumba Club fans, it was
great.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably a bit of a wild card for them because I've sort of built my reputation on doing slightly more upbeat, high energy sort of queer pop tracks. But I do other stuff, and I wanted to go a little bit more emotive this time, a little bit more honest. So it's a track about something which I know many queer people will relate to, and it is that trying to meet those expectations placed in front of you when you grow up, whether that be to do with your gender or to do with your sexuality. So, the expectations of your gender to be particularly masculine or whatever it might be, or whether it's just sort of you need to be a lawyer
Hmm.
or whatever that might be, and you end up sort of feeling like you're creating yourself for somebody else. And so I just kind of wrote a very honest song about it.
Mm. Right. Well, I was just listening to it before actually. And I was thinking that as well. I was actually thinking like listening to the lyrics and being like, oh, actually, this is quite like a feels like quite an honest,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
honest song.
Which is
What? Sorry, on you
no, go ahead.
go. I'm gonna ask that question that everybody hates, myself included. But what what is your process in terms of songwriting?
I love that.
Do you have a an order in, or is it flexible?
Uh, so I've now returned to my original process, which I find interesting. I think that is indicative of the fact I've grown in confidence as an artist. So I used to sit at a piano and write songs when I was sort of younger, teenager, um, and and they were probably quite bad. Um, and then I started using Ableton a lot in my early 20s, and I'd get a loop in on a piano and then just create like snippets of a song and then put them together and then do the top line over the top.
Hmm.
Um, so I'd almost produce it before I did the song,
Hmm.
which has benefits. But now I've decided I'm going to go back to the old way because I felt like it was all style and no substance sometimes.
Mm.
So it was all like it sounded great in terms of production and sounds, but I was slightly worried I lost that kind of human bit of the song.
Hmm.
So now I booked in a piano room once a week in Hackney just to go in and do that. And I don't take any like screens in.
Nice.
So,
And that's
so that,
so for songwriting practice as opposed to playing the piano practice, or
yeah, to write songs,
yeah.
to write songs. Um, and I always remember, I think it was Paul McCartney said that they never, because they couldn't record anything, they had to write good songs, so they remembered them.
Mm.
But,
Yeah.
so I just thought that was quite a good thing to go through, and it was
Mm.
I had to readjust a bit to get used to it. But it's meant I can write songs like this one, which I think I think that's it's benefited the song.
Mm. Mm. From going through that more traditional songwriting process, I guess.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah, it's not
yeah.
like
No.
you.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I said it's not like you lose your skills as a producer if you start
Mm.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah. It's interesting thinking about that as well, and yeah, because I guess as producing becomes more and more, I feel like more part of the package or part of kind of what people do. Um, but I think yeah,
That,
for me, like not losing that live interaction with a real instrument, I think is important.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? You did an acoustic version of one of your songs recently,
I did, yeah, yeah.
and it's interesting how that does bring out a song in a different way.
Hmm.
Or you do that when you have it in its rawest form, it has to perform.
Mm. Yeah, 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 exactly. There's nothing else to like back it up, and yeah, I kind of dithered about even releasing that because even like in the sound of it, like it was very much like recorded in the garden, as it kind of says
Yeah,
on my phone. Like the sound was, not bad, but it wasn't good. So it was very like a raw kind of thing. But there was something in the performance of it and the fact that you can kind of hear the trees and like outside and stuff that I kind of liked. I was just like, oh, I wonder if I can do the complete opposite of what I've just done, which is work for a producer and make it all polished. And I was like, I wonder if I can just do that and see what happens. So,
Right. I mean, isn't it? And sometimes it's more effective,
mm,
and I think I overproduce as well sometimes.
mm,
Because you kind of lose, yeah, as we've been saying, you lose that core. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, if there's so much, whizzes, so many whizzes and bangs going on.
yeah. There's the song in there as well. I guess that's yeah. I guess that's the test. Can you play it just with one instrument as a song? Does it work that way too? Perhaps
Yeah.
I don't know.
The,
Um,
the, sorry,
no, on you go.
I was just saying the issue I'm finding now though with it is that I do that, and then sometimes when you've written a song like that, you're spent,
Mm,
kind of emotionally or just creatively, you're spent, and as you probably know, things come in short bursts.
mm,
Then nothing happens for days,
mm-hmm,
um, and so I'm less enthusiastic about producing something. Sometimes I kind of then want to pass it on
mm-hmm.
once it's done. So I get, yeah, that's something I'm slightly anxious about, but I can get over it.
As in like because you've spent so much time writing the song that you don't maybe have the energy to then go and produce it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because you've gone into it in the same kind of depth you would have producing
Mm,
it first time round, and you've got this song, this mammoth song, and you think, well, that's the song.
mm,
Well, like it's like a yeah, you just get kind of fed up of it before,
mm,
not or maybe not fed up, just sort of exhausted by it, and you
mm-hmm.
don't know where it can go.
Do you work with other producers as well, or do you do the full shebang yourself?
So I have until recently always got someone else to do a final
Mm,
mix. But in terms of the production and arranging and recording and all that, I've always done all that. I tend to have sent it off to a mixing engineer just because I felt like I need another pair of ears just
yeah.
to even stuff out. Um, but I, I'm sort of in two minds about it. I think that's true sometimes, but other sometimes I think at the end of the day, like, does it sound good?
Mm,
Does it sound good? And if it sounds good, then you should put it out. And does it sound good in a week? Well, then that's it. That's all you need.
mm, yeah.
Um,
It's good test. A good test there, I think. Yeah. Do what I was going to ask was, are you? And feel free not to answer this if this is a nosy question, but are you full time Rumba Club? Are you full time music making? Do you do other things as well?
I'm full time music.
Yeah.
I do other things. I've got some library music that I do that rolls in for me. Um, I do like sort of little media things which pay stuff. So, well, it's kind of all related to Rumba Club, I
Okay.
guess. But I didn't do anything that's not musical,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which I consider myself very lucky to
Yeah,
do.
that's no, that's great.
You can't ask
And
for much more than
yeah, well, no, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It always interests me as well, just sort of seeing how other artists navigate it because it's not easy,
that. No,
um,
I mean, of course not. No.
uh, and
Uh,
yeah, but yeah, and also yeah, doing the stuff that you do, if it's even if it's still music related, like yeah, like you're saying, that is quite lucky to still be working with music. even if it's not all on the one project. But I think that's kind of what everybody has to do, because it's
I do.
very hard to financially make it all stick to one project, unfortunately.
In the early days, like when I was, I don't know, 8 years ago, I was in a call center because it was the only thing that gave me the flexibility
Mm,
to lay the groundwork for everything I do now.
right.
Um, but that was hard, man.
Yeah.
That was tough. Working 6, sometimes 7 days a week.
Hmm.
And if you want to have a life as well, and you live in London, you go out and then you get up while everyone's hanging in bed, and you get up at 9 o'clock on the Sunday morning because that's when the double pay was.
Yeah.
Like musicians, we wouldn't do it unless we had to, right?
I know. Yeah. It's like this other weird job that you just have to
Yeah,
do regardless.
sure.
Um, and yeah, and it requires a lot of brain power and energy as well. So it's like that's the difficult thing is when your energy is then zapped through whatever else you need to do to make it possible, and then still have to then try and be creative and that's before we even chat about the marketing side of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey,
Yeah.
but hey, yeah, but you're right though. We put up with it, I guess, because we love it.
Yeah, I think so. And, it's very hard to justify to any government that they should just pay us to be creative. Um,
Yeah. But
there is an argument for that. But anyway, we'll go into that.
hey, it's where would we be without it all though? That's what I always
Exactly.
think.
Exactly.
Um, so kind of speaking of creating a sort of another element of your music and perhaps links nicely to your song is the imagery and the videos and everything that kind of goes along with it. Um, I don't know if you can talk a little bit about it. So I know you've spoken about the kind of 80s inspiration and stuff as well, but I feel that you are quite uh, there's quite a lot of thought goes into that side of stuff as well, from what I can see and what you've spoken about.
Thank
Is that
you. That's
correct?
a compliment. That's a compliment, and you're right. A lot of thought does go into it. Um, and actually, I've the the only time I've been unsatisfied with music videos is when there hasn't been a lot of thought that's gone into it, um, because I just feel it's a bit empty. Um, so that's not the same for everybody, but yeah, it's a huge part of what I do, I guess. But that's lots of artists like that are consider themselves to be artists in their own, so they try and incorporate everything. It's not just a promo video; it's a part of the package,
Mm.
I guess. Um, so yeah, I guess everything tends to be. I work with Ben as well, so he's my kind of creative. I don't know. We just we discuss it late at night and like make briefs of videos and things like that
Okay.
according to the song, but sometimes the video is more complete before the song is, which is quite
Hello,
interesting.
that's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So like I'm releasing a song soon, um, and the video is particularly. I mean, I think it's one of my best videos. It's
Hmm.
quite stylized and it's pretty intense. It's like nothing I've done. So I'm quite excited about it. But
Hmm.
that was formed as an idea before the song was written.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So the visual, and then did you then hear the music from what you had from the visual in your mind, or did you kind of then create the music to fit that?
I would like to say it was more it was as sort of linear as that,
Hmm.
but it's not really. It's more like I have this idea and I've got all these associations and the themes associated with it, and then I'm writing a few tracks, and then I think, oh, this is the one that will go with that.
Hmm.
Um, so I wish I could be like, I've got a video, and now I'm going to write the song for it. But no, more like park that idea, and then see if anything fits. And sometimes it just, or at least you feel it does.
Hmm.
Bang, that's the
Comes
one.
in and matches. Um, yeah, I thought like it's really creating that, thinking about the videos for songs is fun. My problem is that my in my mind when I create a video, it's like I have £1 million budget, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. Yeah, that work. And then I'm like, how am I going to do that myself?
So,
How's that going to work?
you know what's fascinating is that some of my most successful videos have been the ones that I've done on an iPhone.
Mm,
Um, I did a sort of slightly subversive cover of Last Christmas at Christmas.
mm-hmm,
Um, and I deliberately made it my voice kind of rough and raw, and I made it feel quite lo-fi. So I used sort of a limited sound palette and a very tacky old Yamaha like child's keyboard,
mm-hmm.
and it didn't go viral, but it got me sort of another 200 followers overnight.
Mm,
Um, and so something about that resonated, and that was literally me and Ben going around the house with an iPhone.
yeah.
Um, so I think I'm like you. I have been, I feel like I'm Spielberg, but sometimes I
Kubrick.
think you can make something amazing very simply,
Mm,
and people should definitely do that more. I
mm,
mean, people have won Grammys on their iPhone,
mm.
haven't they? Like I think Steve Lacy recorded an album on his iPhone and it won a
Yeah.
Grammy. Crazy.
Yeah, no, it's funny, isn't it? It's like this. I think both things happen at the same time. Like we've got so many tools to our use that we can use and actually use them fine, but at the same time, there's so many tools that are there that you're like, oh, but you should use this, or you have to use that, or you have to like, yeah, you've got to use the best. So you get bamboozled by all the things that are out there, but
But
actually,
the thing is, though, people get so much high quality content now, like coming through on their
mm,
stories and whatnot, that sometimes I think it's just the more raw stuff that cuts through because it feels more real, feels more relatable. And I think you can have a beautifully creatively directed video, and and it just people just don't relate to it because they don't like are so overwhelmed with other imagery that they
yeah,
don't give it.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. There you go. Get those phones out. Start making the
Exactly.
videos. I have a couple more questions for you,
Sure.
and that's us. And we're going to hear as well some a live a live
Yes.
thing from you as well, which we'll hear in the show, whatever that may be. We'll discuss and find out. Um, I lie. I've now got a third question I want to ask. So whilst I'm on thinking about live, um, are there plans for live performances um, down the line once it's all possible, or perhaps there's some more virtual things that are happening?
So I've promised the clubbers a live stream, so that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I can never betray. Um, but yes, we're now booking in our shows um, for the post-pandemic world. Um, I'm not. It sounds very diva-ish, but I'm genuinely not allowed to announce yet because of things about confirmations and ticket sales and stuff like that. But there is stuff coming.
It's great.
Um, yeah, I feel like I feel like Prince Harry. I'm not telling you who it was, but it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
yeah,
good. That's exciting.
hopefully, yeah. So
We'll
news to follow.
news to follow. We'll keep an eye out. So images. I saw a picture of you in your pants. How did that all come about?
I mean, Calvin Klein.
Yeah.
Um, so,
What's the
um,
story?
so Dazed, and Calvin Klein, did a feature. They wanted to create this feature with sort of unique zines,
Hmm.
magazines, and Bellissimo is this brilliant magazine run by two Italian guys called Ivan and Paolo,
Hmm.
Ivan Roberto and Paolo Sabini, and their vibe is sort of Martin Parr like. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but
No, I'm not familiar.
he's a photographer who does sort of super fascinating snippets of kind of ordinary culture, but sort of finds beauty in ordinary culture. So you could be at a, a, a tea party at the Queen's Jubilee, and he'd have found an amazing street party and taken a wacky picture of it from behind the flag or something like that.
Hmm.
So kind of fun, but kind of beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
And they have created this magazine called Bellissimo, which I don't want to kind of misrepresent them, but it's sort of like a holiday guide, and it's part fashion, part humor. And anyway, so Dazed sort of commissioned them to do something for them with Calvin Klein, and they asked me to be a part of it. And I think it's because they asked me to be the underwear model. And I think it's because part of their thing is it's kind of retro,
Hmm.
and my sort of physicality. I'm not like a Calvin Klein model, but my physicality. I've got a hairy chest and all that kind of thing, and it's kind of I sort of resemble what a man was meant to look like in the 70s,
Right.
that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
you can imagine sort of medallion and yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and they weren't as sort of anorexic as they are now. Do you know what I mean? They weren't
Uh-huh.
as so they asked me to do that, and I did it. And so I turned up, got styled in my Calvin Kleins, as styled as you can be, uh, and I did a few poses, including the trademark Rhumba Club pose.
Hmm.
And they took it, and they really liked it. But then I woke up one morning, and my inbox, so I've been sent this thing, and Calvin Klein had put me on the front page of
Wow.
like men's sale, um, which I found slightly extraordinary. So yeah, that happened.
Goodness, that's pretty cool. What an email to wake up to.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of funny as well. Like my raison d'etre is like undermining
Yeah.
masculinity, and
And there you are on the front.
anyway,
Well,
it was
that's
a long.
very cool. That's very cool. Circle of life or something. Can't find the right
Yeah,
words for it, but yeah. That's very cool. Well, and you already preempted my final question was how do I do the trademark Rumba Club pose?
very good question. So it's a combination of the thinking man,
Hmm.
um, which is or the thinker, a sculpture by Rodin
Hmm.
and Bruce Forsyth. Used to do
Great.
it as well, and I joke that I'm somewhere in between the two. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
so you've just got to. I'll show you. I'm gonna go back because
Okay.
it's all about the lunge.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Great. Oh, yes. It's a strong lunge.
That was clear enough.
That was very clear. That was great. It's a strong, strong lunge.
Obviously, there's so much amount of irony to it, but at the same time, it ignites. When I'm playing live, it ignites a sort of strange, empowered reaction from the crowd, and I don't quite know why, but something unique happens when I do it. So
I guess it's quite a strong pose as well. I'm not going to do it, but you know the thing here.
Got the emoji.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll be practicing that, you know, for the real life Rumba Club experience.
Oh, please do.
Thank you so much for coming to chat to me. I really appreciate it and getting to
Thank you.
know all the stories a little bit more.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you asking me questions. It's nice to chat with yourself.
Yeah. Oh, always good. Always good to chat. And like I've been saying, I feel all the time now. It's really nice to do it in real life, in person at some point. So fingers crossed for all those connections in real life happening.
Yeah.
Well, great. All the best. Look forward to hearing about these live performance announcements whenever they do, and the next songs in the pipeline as well. So,
okay. Thank you so much.
thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.